The stars had always been a source of wonder for humanity, a canvas of infinite possibilities painted across the void, but in the year 2085, the stars became something else entirely. A harbinger of dread, a reminder of our insignificance in the grand tapestry of the cosmos. It began with a signal, faint and enigmatic, emanating from the depths of space. The world's leading scientists, astronomers, and philosophers were baffled. The signal was not random, it was a pattern, a message, and it was coming from a place no human had ever dared to explore. Dr. Evelyn Carter, a renowned astrophysicist, was the first to decode the signal. It was a series of coordinates pointing to a distant star system on the edge of the Milky Way. The message was simple, yet chilling. Come and see. The world held its breath as governments and private entities scrambled to assemble a mission. The promise of first contact, of answers to questions humanity had pondered for millennia, was too tantalizing to ignore. Evelyn was chosen to lead the expedition, a decision she would come to regret. The journey to the star system, dubbed Erebus, took 3 years. The crew of the starship Aether consisted of 12 individuals, each an expert in their field. They were prepared for the unknown, or so they thought. As the Aether approached the coordinates, the crew began to notice strange anomalies. The stars outside the viewport seemed to flicker unnaturally, as if they were not stars at all, but something else entirely. The ship's instruments malfunctioned sporadically, and the crew reported hearing whispers in the empty corridors, voices that spoke in languages no human had ever heard. When the Aether finally arrived at its destination, the crew was met with a sight that defied comprehension. Floating in the void was a massive structure, ancient and alien, its surface covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift and writhe when stared at for too long. The structure was not a planet nor a star, but something in between, a living, breathing entity that pulsed with a faint, otherworldly light. Evelyn named it the Monolith. As the crew prepared to explore the Monolith, they discovered that it was not solid but composed of countless smaller structures, each one a labyrinth of corridors and chambers. The air inside was thick with an oppressive silence, broken only by the occasional sound of something moving in the darkness. The walls seemed to absorb light, making it difficult to see more than a few feet ahead. The crew's instruments were useless, their readings nonsensical. It was as if the monolith existed outside the laws of physics, a place where reality itself was malleable. Evelyn and her team ventured deeper into the monolith, driven by a mix of curiosity and fear. They found strange artifacts, objects that seemed to be both organic and mechanical, pulsating with a faint, sickly glow. The artifacts emitted a low hum, a sound that resonated in the bones and made the crew's skin crawl. They also found writings, or what they assumed were writings, etched into the walls. The symbols were incomprehensible, yet they seemed to convey a sense of urgency, a warning. As they delved further, the crew began to experience vivid hallucinations. They saw things that could not possibly be real, visions of their own deaths, of the earth consumed by fire, of the universe collapsing in on itself. Some crew members claimed to have seen their loved ones, beckoning them to follow into the darkness. Others reported feeling an overwhelming sense of dread, as if they were being watched by something vast and malevolent. The hallucinations grew more intense the deeper they went, until it became impossible to distinguish reality from illusion. Evelyn, ever the scientist, tried to rationalize what was happening. She theorized that the monolith was emitting some form of radiation or energy that affected the human brain, causing the hallucinations. But deep down, she knew it was more than that. The monolith was alive, and it was probing their minds, testing them. It was as if the structure itself was trying to communicate, to convey a message that was beyond human understanding. The crew's mental state deteriorated rapidly. One by one, they succumbed to the horrors of the monolith. Some went mad, babbling incoherently before disappearing into the darkness. Others turned on each other, driven by paranoia and fear. Evelyn watched helplessly as her team fell apart, their sanity unraveling like a thread pulled from a tapestry. She was alone now, the last survivor, standing at the heart of the monolith. It was there, in the deepest chamber, that Evelyn finally understood the true nature of the monolith. The walls of the chamber were covered in the same shifting patterns she had seen before, but now they formed a coherent image. A map of the universe, vast and incomprehensible. The map showed the Earth, a tiny speck in the corner, connected to countless other worlds by a web of lines. The lines pulsed with a faint light, like veins carrying the lifeblood of the cosmos. Evelyn realized that the monolith was not just a structure, it was a gateway, a bridge between dimensions. The signal they had received was not an invitation, but a warning. The monolith was a prison, containing something ancient and malevolent, something that had been sealed away eons ago by a civilization far more advanced than humanity. The artifacts, the writings, the hallucinations, they were all part of a test, a way to determine if humanity was worthy of the knowledge contained within the monolith. But humanity had failed. The crew's descent into madness had proven that they were not ready, that their minds were too fragile to comprehend the truths hidden in the depths of space. Evelyn felt a profound sense of despair as she realized the enormity of what they had done. By coming to the monolith, they had awakened something that should have remained dormant. The lines on the map began to pulse faster, the light growing brighter until the entire chamber was filled with a blinding radiance. Evelyn's final moments were a blur. She felt herself being pulled into the light, her body dissolving into nothingness. She saw visions of the earth consumed by fire and chaos as the thing within, the monolith, broke free and spread its influence across the universe. She saw the end of all things, the collapse of reality itself as the ancient evil reclaimed its dominion. And then there was nothing. The Aether was never heard from again. The signal from the monolith ceased, and the world moved on, unaware of the horrors that had been unleashed. But in the quiet moments, when the stars shone brightest, some people felt a strange unease, as if they were being watched. They dismissed it as paranoia, a trick of the mind. But deep down, they knew the truth. The universe was vast and indifferent, and humanity was but a fleeting spark in the darkness. The Earth in 2085 was a reminder of the fragility of human understanding, of the dangers of seeking knowledge beyond our comprehension. The stars, once a source of wonder, had become a symbol of our insignificance, and as the light from the monolith faded into the void, it left behind a chilling reality, a universe that was not just indifferent, but actively hostile to our existence. In the end, the story of the monolith was not one of discovery, but of hubris. It was a cautionary tale, a reminder that some truths are better left unknown. For in the vastness of the cosmos, there are things that should never be awakened, secrets that should never be uncovered, and as the stars continue to shine, indifferent to our plight, we are left to wonder, what other horrors lie hidden in the darkness, waiting for us to find them?